Welcome to the first Ideologic demo question answer series. I'll be your host, Jay Well, here from the Smile office. And what I want to do today is just go through some of the really basics on Ideologic to hopefully help you use the program and help students and parents get registered through it. Again, we are using this program. It's new. There's a lot of options to make improvements and advancements, and we really need your help to do that. So any feedback that you have is really helpful for that. So with that said, I'm just going to get right into it. And again, if you watch this, have questions, feel free to contact me by email or phone, and I can help walk you through it, or we can do another Zoom session to kind of go through it step by step. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen so you don't necessarily have to look at me the whole time, but you'll get to see what we're doing here. So I have two ones open here, and I'm going to start out in this one that says Test Elementary. So I've made myself a pseudonym, Jason Weller. And I'm an elementary school teacher for Test Elementary. So when you log on, and I'm assuming here you've used the invitation that Cami sent out and you've gone ahead and made an account. Now, I know that some of you haven't done that. If there's any issues in making that account, please let us know so we can help that. If you don't have that invitation or you're looking for that invitation, again, please let us know so we can make sure that you do have it. But when you do log in, you'll see this will be your landing page, your dashboard right here. And you'll see your school name up here. And you'll have a list. You'll have members, club logs, resource centers. You also have some quick links up here in this green box. This is the membership link form. And you'll see this link here. And if you provide this link to parents or students, if you have their email address, for example, and you email it to them, this link will prompt them to make an account and have them fill out an application specifically for your club. It's the easiest way that you can get people to register for your club. Now, there's other options to walk students through and actually having you fill out the application form that I'll go through in a little bit. And that's this new membership form here. And there's also the new club log. So I want to talk about the Resource Center here. The Resource Center is just like the Resource Center that's on our website. But if you click on Documents, you'll see that there's a number of documents here from flyers and the help guide for this program, Ideologic, but also the applications in both English and Spanish. So paper applications still work. If somebody's having a difficult time utilizing Ideologic, or they don't have access to a computer or phone or an email address, it makes it difficult. And so paper applications still work well. And so you can always access them here if they can't utilize Ideologic. Now, ideally, we want them to use the program, because once they're in the system, and while it's a little bit challenging to have them make an account and go through the process, they only have to do that once. And so as their child joins Smile the next year, going through that application process will be just verifying the information that was initially put in is still correct and filling out the consent form. Now, to get back to the home page, you'll notice there's two home buttons here, and it's a little bit confusing. You want to use the one that's orange. So if you click the one that's orange, it brings you back to your dashboard. Now, let's say you accidentally hit this one here. It sort of goes away, right? If you hit this one here, it sort of turns on and off these buttons over here. The other one you have is your member home. The member home is specifically for you. It's where you can edit your profile. It's also where you're going to see the 2020 teacher workshop registration. So when you have a registration for teacher workshops, they'll be found here on the member home. In the future, for registration for student events, our College Connection events will be here on your dashboard. So let's go through and look at a couple of members and see what you may be seeing as you have students who and parents who are filling out the application. So if I click on members, this is going to give me a list of all the members here. These are all made up people. So don't pay attention to the ages or their names or anything like that. Pay attention to whether they have a green check mark or a red X. The red X means that they're missing a waiver. And the waiver is really important. The waiver is what parents need to fill out to allow their students to be in the program. And if they don't sign the waiver, or if a student signs a waiver, a student being somebody who's under 18, a minor, we have to have the parent sign it. If they have a green check mark, that means that waiver has been signed. And that's all done on the online system. But I'm going to show you a way that if, for whatever reason, it doesn't get signed on the online system, or the student fills out the form, the parent can still provide a written waiver. So that's what you need to look through for here. And if you have any questions, you can always click on this X here, and you can see it says Jay's membership form is on file. Jay still needs to sign the required consent form. If I wanted to look further, I could look through Jay's application right here and see basically the application form. And right here at the bottom, it says acknowledgement risks of liability not attained. So if somebody doesn't obtain a waiver, what do you do? Well, the best way to do that is to get a paper application. Again, we're going to click on our home button. We're going to go back to our Resource Center documents, and we can look at our application, whether it's English or Spanish. Whatever's best for the family, click on that. You can open that up. And then the last 2 pages, you don't need to fill out the whole thing, because if they've already started the application, most of this information has been collected. But these last 2 pages are the waiver. And so if they fill that waiver out and they turn that back into you, you can then scan and email that to us, and we will make sure that that red X turns into a green check mark by showing that the waiver is on file with the parent signature. So that's really quick of what you do when you don't get a waiver. Now, one other thing in this document is you'll notice that Idealogic doesn't have a Spanish option. If the family you're working with needs a Spanish option, the only way to do it at this point is through the paper application. It's the same Spanish application that we've used in years past, and it works just fine, and we can input all that information just as we have done before. You would collect the paper application, scan it to us, and we would input all that information into the Idealogic system. Hopefully, Idealogic will come out with a Spanish variation, but they don't have that ability currently. I know they're working towards it, so hopefully in the future we'll have an update for you that they will be able to have the same functionality in Spanish as in English. Okay, so now we can look at our members. We know what the check marks mean. Now let's say you have a member in your club. They have this green check mark. They're all good. They're coming to club meetings, but then they decide they don't want to be in Smile Club anymore. You can always update them, and you can change their position, basically. So you can say they're no longer participating, or they dropped out of school, or they moved, or unknown, or did not graduate, or inactive, no association. There's a lot of different options. Most likely you're going to put no longer participating in the club. That doesn't mean that they can't come back, and you can change them back into a participating member, but it allows us to collect that data that student's no longer participating, and allows us to keep the time that they were participating in the system. So that's another option you can do as students sort of, come maybe in or out of your club during the year. Now, ideally, you wouldn't want to make that, you wouldn't want to change this all the time, but if you have a student that was in it for half the year and then left, you could just put that not participating, or if they moved away. So let's say a student comes to you and says, hey, my family doesn't have access to the internet or a computer or a phone, or I'm just having difficulty getting through it. Can you help me fill out this application? And you can. You can click this new membership form here, and I'm going to walk you through what that entails. And I think it's also helpful to see from maybe a parent's perspective of what they're looking at when they're going through and filling out this application. So you'll see this, it says welcome. You're gonna walk you through the test elementary membership process. You're not gonna select you because you're not becoming a member of the club. You're most likely not selecting your child or dependent unless they are in the club, but you're gonna be selecting another person. So I've had that clicked and I'm gonna select a new minor. Most of the time, especially in this first year, you'll be selecting new minors because these students aren't in the system yet. But as time goes on, if a student was in, let's say, an elementary club and they transition to a middle school club, they'll still be in the system and you can go ahead and select that member. And then a lot of that information that you'd be putting in the application will already be there. And it will make that process go a lot faster. But let's just assume that this is a new minor. So you're gonna click on new minor. You have to give them a birthday. Let's give them 12/1/07. And their first name is going to be, let's see, J. Wilson. Okay, so we got J. Wilson. We're going to create a new minor here. So then you're going to hit this next button down there. It's going to come up with some information. You can associate them with gender and what grade they're in. I'm just making this up as I go. And then you'll have to select a guardian. A student application can't go through unless that student has a guardian, because that's the guardian that's going to need to sign off on the waiver. So you're going to have to select a guardian, and it's most likely not going to be a guardian that already exists. You'd have to click new guardian. And so you're going to, so K. Wilson is going to be the guardian. Now here's where you'd input the email address of the parent. If the parent does have an email address, it's great to put it in here because that's the way that they're going to access Idealogic in the future. If they don't have an email address, you can leave it blank. I'm going to go ahead and leave it blank to show that. So I'm going to add guardian. But now you're going to have to put some information about this guardian or add another guardian. So you can go ahead and add another guardian. But if I hit next, it's going to cue me in to put in some information about this guardian. They're going to need, they're going to need a relationship to this. They're going to need a phone number. You can put type and comments about that phone number here, but you don't have to. And they're going to need an address. So let's say, say they live, oops, don't live in Rhode Island. Let's say they live in the Smile office. Okay, and you can add that address. Now you've completed everything for this guardian. And as long as this application has at least one guardian associated with it, it can go through. So we hit next. I'm going to fill out this information. This is information that you'd really want to know. And so it would be helpful to have this information going in. And that could be through a paper application or a parent talking to you or a student talking you through it. But you'd want to know this information. So let's just assume this person doesn't have any food allergies. And here you can decline to answer these. We use this information for funding purposes. So if families fill it out, that's wonderful, but they don't have to. You'll notice after you fill those out, you'll have these red boxes come up. The first three are really the eligibility requirements to be in SMILE that we talk about. You can go ahead and select not eligible for all of them, and the application will still go through, but one of these should be yes for a student to be in the SMILE program. So, and you can just select whatever the primary language is at home. Now here's the waiver. This is the same waiver that's in that paper application that you see. If a parent was there, they would come down here and put their name, and then they can either choose to opt out of the media release, meaning no pictures or likenesses, or they can leave that unchecked, and that'll allow us to take pictures. Now, if you're filling it out as the teacher, you can come up here and there's two different options for you. One, it says consent has been obtained by other means, signed and on file. the most common way that this would occur is if you had the paper consent form and they filled out the paper consent form, and you had that, and you can either scan and email it to us or keep it on file yourself, and you can check that box, and that's going to basically allow this application to go through with a signed consent form because you do have that on file. Or maybe you do not have it and you would select this. That's going to provide that red X next to that student's name, knowing that there's, including you in, us in, that that student needs a signed waiver from a guardian. So let's just say that we have that on file. Click next. It's going to allow you to review this. You can review it. As you see here, it says signed consent form on file. Submit that membership. Yes. And magically, this student is now registered in your club, Test Elementary. So if I go into members, I can go back and see Jay Wilson is a member right there. And a member with a check mark, meaning that everything's recorded. Now, Jason Weller, it's going to say Test Elementary approval recorded on August 2nd, 19th by Jason Weller. Jason Weller, that's my pseudonym in this Test Elementary. Now, if a parent fills out an application and you will come to your dashboard and you'll have a red box up here, and that red box will signify that you have to approve their application. And there's two options you can do. You can approve the application or you can reject the application. The third option is you can do nothing, and then they sort of stay in this middle ground of not being approved or unapproved. And it's kind of like a wait list because there's not a wait list button. But you have to go through and approve them to have them become members. And you'll be prompted up there until you do that, to do that. There's also some other options on here. So that's kind of how you could go through, and a couple different ways you can actually get students signed up and in the system. You know, you can email members. So like if you hit this button, it's going to provide an email to all those members and their parents who you have email addresses for. So it's a way to communicate with your club if there's an upcoming event or change in club meeting time or whatever. There's a customized membership confirmation. So when you approve a member, so that, remember we're talking about that red box coming up here and you're approving that member, they're going to get a confirmation saying, oh, you are now a SMILE member, and you can actually write in what you want that to say. And that may be where you clue them into when the club meetings are, or what some of the fun activities you're going to be doing is, or math and science, things like that. And you can customize a welcome notification. And there's also a calendar here that you can you put in things here. And you'll notice here that I've done 2 club logs, and those club logs will show up. And that's what I'm going to show you next. So let's say you're having a club and you're going to do a club log. Club logs are really designed to be done during the club time. And I think that's the easiest way to do it. If you come here to new club log in the screen box, click on it. It's going to bring up a new screen for this. You can just say it. We're going to have it today, and it's going to be at 4:30, and it's going to end at 5:30 p.m. And then who's attending. And so this is something you can just have open on your computer or your phone and fill it out throughout the club meeting. And that way you have it done, all the information is current, and at the very end you submit it, and it's done. So for attendance, you hit select a person. This is going to bring up the list of everybody that is in your club. So let's say I'm just going to randomly select some folks that are there, add those selected, and it shows there. Now let's say somebody comes in late, I can select them and I can add them later, and they're there too. Let's say somebody comes in for like a minute and then leaves, and so they really weren't there, but you had already clicked them there. You can always remove that person. It's going to ask you if you're sure you want to remove them. Yep, you remove that person. So it allows you to have an accurate attendance. Now, you may have the situation where you have club members that have not yet filled applications but are coming to club meetings. Unfortunately, there's not a way to keep track of those students yet. That's one of the things that we're looking into, is how do you mark students at a club meeting that don't have applications in yet. So we're working on that, but right now you can't do that. Going down here to the next portion, it's going to ask you, what was this? What kind of log is this? Was it a meeting, a field trip, a family math and science night, something else? Most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, you're going to be selecting meeting. But if it is something else, please identify it as such. This allows you, the next button is to add the activities you did. You can add up to as many activities as you want, but we really like to know what activities you're doing. It helps us track it for reporting purposes to grantors, and also to kind of keep track of, on these next questions down, it's like, did you like the activity? Where did you get the activity? Would you use the activity again? That helps clues us in on, are we developing activities and presenting them at teacher workshops in a way that makes you want to use them not only in your club, but also in your classroom. So let's say we did a paper airplane activity. You don't need to go too crazy in saying what exactly you did, but a short description to help us clue us in on what the activity is great. So maybe you said design and build distance. Okay. That's all you need. You add that activity. That activity is up here. You can also edit and remove it if you've made a mistake. You can also add a new activity. Let's say you did multiple activities. One activity was a team builder activity you did for the first 15 minutes, and then there was another activity you did for the last 45. You can go ahead and put as many activities in here as you would like. I'm only going to put that one in. Where did you get that from? I'm going to say, we got it from the Smile Teacher Smile website, where we have a lot of different activities. You could have got it from a workshop, a recent or an old workshop, or you could have got it from somewhere else. If you're getting activities from other places, let us know where you're getting them from, so we're able to share those links with other teachers, because if you're using them and like them, more than likely more teachers would like to use them. What was the length of the activity? Round to the nearest quarter hour. You could put this as the length of your club meeting if your activity lasted the whole club meeting, or if it lasted for a part, you can either select minutes or hours. I'm just going to say ours was 1 hour. Here's the two questions you asked. If you've been doing club logs with us for a while, you know that we've been using similar questions here, and it clues us into two things. One is we tell our funders that Smile is an opportunity for teachers to test out new lessons that they might bring into their classroom. And so tell us, is the activity you did something that you would do in your classroom, or is it something you wouldn't? And so you can choose that on a scale of 1 to 5. Let's say, yeah, something I'd bring in the classroom. And then would I use this activity again? This is, would I use it again in my club? Would I use it again in another setting? Yeah, let's say I agree there. It wasn't the greatest, but it was definitely something I'd use again. That's where you put it. Any other comments on this activity or additional feedback for Smile? This will help clue us in on what these answers really mean. Again, this isn't a required field, but we appreciate and do read the comments that you leave. Now you'll see on here, at least for the next year, this Youth Program Quality Assessment. So the Youth Program Quality Assessment is a continuous program improvement grant from the Oregon Community Foundation that we have been doing for the last 3 years. If we'd like you to fill this section out at least once a quarter, ideally twice a quarter. And if you select yes here, it will prompt you with a series of required responses. And these are specifically from the YPQA. So you can go in and look specifically at them. And when we talk about staff, we're talking about you as teachers. And so fill it out, and we'll be using that data to report back to OCF, as well as trying to make the program improvement sessions at our workshops more specific to what you need as teachers. At this point, I'm just going to select no. And now I can go ahead and submit this. Now, if I left something blank that was required field, it would kind of prompt me to go back and change that, but I didn't do that. It says, thank you for submitting your club log. Hit OK. And now I can go and look at my club logs. So this was one thing that, some functionality that wasn't there with the Google form is being able to go back and look at your past club logs. And so you can see club logs, there's current, there's past, and you can look at all of them. But current is going to be within that current time span of your Smile year. Past is going to be all the club logs that you've ever done. Past is going to be all the ones outside of that current club year, and then all is going to be all the club logs you've ever done. So you can go back and look at those. It also, I think, is will be really nice because you'll be able to see what activities did I do, and was that a good activity? Should I be doing it again the next year? It should be something that I'm sharing. So the club logs can be a useful tool to you, ideally, not just us. So that's the way you can look at your club logs. So that's a pretty broad overview of just some of the functionality of Idealogic that you will probably be using most, and that is registering members for the club, using the resource documents, and the club logs. That will probably be what you're using the system most for. Over the next couple months, I'll be doing a series of these, and they'll probably be more specific to certain topics and new functionality that we bring to Idealogic that hopefully makes this a more useful tool for you as a teacher. If there's anything you would like to see us do and demonstrate, have any questions, please email me, and that's jay.well@oregonstate.edu, and I'll make sure to put them in the next demo video. Again, thank you very much for watching this, and I'll be seeing you soon.